Doc. See, under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we were gravitating toward that role. I'm going to go to the phone shortly. We were gravitating toward that role until his absence. And then the master comes in with his subliminal effect, and now the woman said, well, you putting me down. You know, I'm grown. You know, you got to respect me. But do we respect our roles, our nature, the nature of a man and the nature of a woman? If it's written that we want to slay the sons of the believers and keep their women alive, what is the point in keeping the women alive? Because we know she's softer in nature, more nourishing, more tolerant, and patient, if you will, and to accept excuses more so. You know, now that's my vantage point, but it has become now a nightmare for a black man because you see so much separation, and it's hard to mend those fences unless you can have a class for all that could sit in on that class and hope and pray to God give them some sense of understanding. Let me take a quick call, then I'll come back to you, Mike. Okay?
Sure.
Or do you want to make that point before we go?
No, you can take the call.
Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, as I mentioned on the comment section, it's a very timely and excellent show, and I don't want to get off track. Obviously, you talked about drugs and crack.
Yes. Who are you now? Who are
you? My name is Brother Leroy Shabazz.
Yeah, where you calling from?
I'm calling from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
I'm a program coordinator of an organization called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, which is a FEMA downline program for residents and volunteers dealing with disaster preparedness in the black community.
Yes, sir.
And obviously, what I'm looking at, potential of disasters taking place now. And are you there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Because somebody just tried calling in my home. But in this case, again, going back to the conversation about drugs and specifically crack in the beginning, and then parenting, and then Mr. Powers, Dr. Powers mentioned Ronald Reagan, and which he didn't like to mention, but as a disaster coordinator and looking in the FEMA and the disaster preparedness, I know for a fact that when Dr. Powers was an agent in this city, right, he mentioned on Haskell Nelson's show on Black Membo about when he was an agent in the city of Cincinnati that the FBI and the Cincinnati police met and were forewarned that Ricky Ross was coming to Cincinnati, and they watched him come and they watched him go. And after that, the city of Lincoln, which is where Rick Ross came, is destroyed now.
Yes.
And I'm bringing this up in speaking to plans that were laid back in '83 that are now coming to fruition. And I guess I'll conclude my statement with a kind of a request for some kind of a comment from Dr. Powers in reference to. Because I know that the second director of FEMA, Mr. Gordolfo, whatever his name was, as a colonel, he wrote a paper about trying to intern black people.
Okay, let me say, brother, it's obvious that you have a lot and Dr. Powers is going to respond, but this didn't just happen in '83. This happened from the beginning. I just quoted you scripturally, whatever means that they needed, they would destroy the male children and keep their women alive. So whether it's crack, or whether or whether it's the even the white female, it don't make no difference what they use. They gonna use whatever they can. So we understand that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I am a student. I am a registered student. So I'm studying, brother. But I do have work to do in reference to disaster preparedness.
Well, I'm familiar with FEMA as well, and the preparedness. I did something on that some years ago. It's ever going, but the destruction that's inevitable, only God himself is going to be able to save that. So I'll let Dr. Powers respond to you. Obviously, we knew he was an FBI agent in Cincinnati and Detroit and other places. He's a professor now, but I'm glad he can respond. And you can leave your number off the air just in case Doc want to talk to you, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, my brother. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, and I tried to explain to the Cincinnati community at that time, Brother Manier, that this disaster was coming. And what the brother's saying, I spoke on a radio program there at some peril to me in my career, indicating that Ricky Ross, who was actually given crack to distribute across the nation because the CIA couldn't get into the communities was in Cincinnati. He was in Lincoln Heights, Ohio. I even worked a case against Ricky Ross, and he began to put so much drug on the streets in Cincinnati, which was it wasn't drug free, but it certainly wasn't a disaster.
It certainly wasn't like that
back then, and we knew it. And I was working the cases, and they simply never authorized an arrest against him, and there's so much more to that. I won't get into that right now. They never authorized an arrest or a further investigation against Pete Rose, who was on the Cincinnati Reds. And I'm not talking about his baseball situation. I'm talking about him being involved with organized crime, and I try to explain that. But then you see the result of that. So, and as you're right, this has been a plan from the beginning, but what I've always tried to do, Brother Munir, and I'm glad the brother said that, because it's not a new thing for me, was try to lay out that if we do not make some moves now, and as the messenger said, if we don't do not to take control of ours now, this is only going to get progressively worse, and that's a clear indication of what has happened in a city like Cincinnati, and the shooting of 100 times of the guy up in Cleveland, and the 40-some murders here in Baltimore. That's all predictable, and the messenger predicted it. We just didn't heed it, and we're just not doing enough to stop it.